It's a language that allows us to interact with, or users to interact with the web page.
Yeah, that's going to be the, yeah, I'm going to say a programming language that runs in the browser. That will allow us to change the HTML. This is a little bit of a lie, though. Does anyone know why? I mean, this is just a technicality. So the browser reads the HTML, right? And then it creates an interpretation of that HTML that we call the DOM. And the DOM is really what we're going to change with JavaScript. JavaScript is not going to change the actual HTML file, but it feels like it is, kind of. So that's the mental model I want you to go with for now. So why? What is Java? Well, we kind of said why a little bit. And I think Daniel used the word interactions, right? Which is really the key word. Allows for websites to become interactive. I don't know if this is an official thing, but when I hear website, I always think of something you just look at. You just read information like a cooking blog, but you don't interact with at all. And then a web app, I always think of as interactive. So JavaScript is enabling these web applications. So Kim, what's one of your favorite websites? You there, Kim?
Oh. Yeah, I'm trying to think.
It's a website.
I like the Food Network.
Okay. This might be not a great example, but let's see. So the question is, on Food Network, what is an interaction that the user can do? What is an interaction that the user can do?
Type in the search bar.
Yeah, that's a great one. So searching. So let's add that. Do we see another one, Daniel? I think you were.
Would it be the? I was going to say the same thing, search bar, but would the drop down menus and being able to go to specific recipes be another one?
You could. Could you accomplish that? Yeah, you probably would use JavaScript for that. I'm trying to think if you could accomplish that with CSS. You probably could, but you would use JavaScript. But on the screen right now is a way more clear example of a powerful interaction enabled by JavaScript. What do you think, Renata?
Post review?
Yeah.
There's a button there as well.
The button we can do with HTML, but submitting a review, the submit one, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So writing or submitting reviews. And then Renata, what's a different website you like to use that we can look for interactions? And you can use the main ones. It doesn't matter.
Okay. I don't know because I'm always on YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube's great. I love YouTube. So, whoops. I hope I don't get copyright. Okay, so what's some interactions on YouTube? This is a great example.
Writing a comment.
Yeah. Comments. What's another one on YouTube, Brian Wilson?
Sorry, I was muted. You can upload videos.
Yeah, uploading is a huge one. Another one from YouTube, Lizzie, that the user can, complex interactions. They don't feel complex because we do them so often, but they are.
I don't know.
What can you do to a YouTube video?
You can like it.
Yeah, likes require JavaScript. So I think you guys got the idea, right? there's really, I always challenged classes to come up with an example of a website that doesn't have these interactions that anybody uses. And no, there's really, well, there's one kind of category of website, but can anyone try to brainstorm a site that doesn't have interactions, that you really just are looking at information and not really interacting with?
Maybe Wikipedia?
Yeah, except no, right? Because Wikipedia, you can do what?
You can edit it.
You can edit it. Yeah, that's a huge interaction right there from users.
Hey Max, I'm curious about something.
Yeah.
I spend a lot of time on YouTube and Twitch usually, like watching gaming streams. Is JavaScript also used for the interaction with like live chats?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Wholly dependent on JavaScript.
Yeah.
None of that would be possible with just HTML and CSS. Yep. Very complex interaction that requires JavaScript. All right, so I think we got the idea, right? The modern web is impossible without JavaScript. So how do we add JavaScript to our website, right? And let me show you, I guess now is a good time to show what the assignment today will be. So you can start kind of thinking, well, how would I actually build that? So we have day 5, intro to JavaScript. Fun little story here. The singularity happened. The apocalypse happened last night when you guys were sleeping. We don't know, the survivors don't know who's a human, who's a robot. So we need this web application to test, to see if the people are actually still people. So we click on this website and we have what's called a prompt here. So we're going to get information from our user, which is going to require JavaScript. So it says, are you a human? And we can type into this box. And I'm going to say yes, right? Click OK. And then it's going to ask me a series of questions to prove that I'm a human. You won't mind telling me what data type this is. And of course, this is all stuff we're going to spend the next hour learning, but this is a number. And this, am I real, is a string. And this false is going to be a Boolean. And then we're preceded as a human and we're part of the resistance, right? So that is what you're going to build today, kind of to frame the discussion. So we want to, objective 1 is just to build a website per normal. So I'm going to open VS Code. I'm going to open a new folder. I'm going to make a new folder. I'm going to call it anything I want, but I'm going to call it lecture. I'm going to open it up. And Lizzie, how can I get some HTML running and going? A new website.
Well, first you have to put up the structure, the HTML documentation.
There's one step before that.
Oh, sorry about that. So you have to do a new file in index.html.
And then some boilerplate, like you're saying. And then we'll just say hi to see this is working. I'm going to run it with live server. There we go. So we have a working website, right? But we said we want to use JavaScript because you've been convinced how essential it is to build an actual functioning website. And today you're going to need it to verify who the humans are that are left. So how can we add JavaScript? So now that we're convinced how awesome JavaScript is, how can we add JavaScript to our index.html, to our website? Victor?
you make a new file called index.js.
Yeah, awesome. That's one step. What's another step, Ronald?
I think we need to link it up, right? So we're probably gonna need like a script tag.
Yeah.
Be
So we're
in
going to
the
use a
head.
script tag.
Mhm.
And then this one says source, and I have to point it at my JavaScript file.
Yeah.
So here I'm going to point it to index.js.
I have a question.
Yeah.
In the videos I was watching for the pre-work, they put the script tag in the body instead of the head.
Yeah.
Is there a reason or is there a difference?
There is, yeah, one that's not going to affect us today, but so the ordering of things will matter. So first the HTML will be loaded into the browser and it'll be populated the DOM, and then the browser will send a request to download the JavaScript file, and then the JavaScript will run. The problem is if the script, this is getting way ahead of, but just to answer your question quickly, and ignore me if this is information that won't make sense for a few days. This will try to run before this gets loaded, and it could cause you problems later if you're trying to use the body element to like add tags or remove tags or blah, blah, blah. So what you can do is put the keyword defer here, the attribute, and that'll solve those problems. Or the alternative is to put the script tag at the very last of the body tag, but that's a little ugly in my opinion. So just start getting in the habit of just using this word defer. It's fine.
And
so we added a script tag. Question.
I was just gonna ask if you could repeat one more time what the defer was for. I think I missed like the first sentence you were talking about.
Yeah, I went specifically quick because it's not going to make sense with the information we have now. But so the script is going to run, the JavaScript code is going to run before even the browser has a chance to look at the body tag. It's going to do line 7 before line 9. And because in JavaScript, we might want to be modifying the body tag, it will basically say, well, that doesn't exist yet and cause you an error. But if you say defer, you're saying, don't load JavaScript until you're done loading the DOM. Until you're done parsing the HTML. But today, none of this is going to matter until I believe Wednesday. We do DOM. I might be wrong on that. It might even be next week. But you know what? It's next week. It doesn't matter until next week. So, all right. So that's adding JavaScript. So now this website is actually running JavaScript. And we're going to start off. We are given one of the most important tools in our arsenal is called console.log. And we can send ourselves, us as the developers, we can send ourselves messages from the running application. So here, if I say the phrase running JavaScript and save this, I can actually see this, but I need to pull up the dev tools and the console. So I can right click, click inspect, and click console. And I see the message I wrote to myself. This seems weird at first, like, well, why would you want to write messages to yourself? But you can see values of variables, and it's really going to be one of your most important tools. Another important feature is that if you write 2 slashes, this is a comment. So this will be ignored by the JavaScript engine and will just appear in the code. So you can write yourself notes without it affecting the JavaScript itself when it runs. So here I can say like console.log allows you to send messages to yourself as the code runs. Yeah. So that is console.log. The next place I want to start in our discussion of JavaScript is the idea of variables. So what do we think a variable is in JavaScript? Francis.
Sorry. I forget exactly.
no worries.
Sorry. Yeah.
Monica, what do you think from the pre-work? What's a variable? It's kind of similar to the math
It's
meaning
like
of it.
kind of like a container that holds information.
Yeah, that's so perfectly said. A container or empty box that you can put different values in. So literally, I just want you to think of an empty box here in the computer's memory, right? And the cool thing is we can give it a label and call it whatever we want. So I want to declare a variable that can hold how many students are enrolled in our class. So how do we declare a variable? How can we declare a variable? Guion?
We can use a suite type of declaration like var or let or const.
Yeah, so we're only going to use let or const in this class.
Okay.
And then the question is, so to declare a variable, we use let or const. And then the question is, well, what is the difference, right? But we'll get to that in a second. Let's use let. And then we have to come up with a name. So what's a good name for a variable for how many students are enrolled in our class? What's a good name, Sydney?
Enrolled students.
Yeah, sure. Or even num students, maybe. So do you notice the camel casing? This is not technically what's required, but it's a best practice, a custom. We're going to use camel casing. And also you're not going to start with it. Well, camel casing implies you don't start with a capital letter. And then you don't use special characters. I don't even know if this is legal or not. Obviously not. VS Code is telling me. So you're not going to start with a special character, but I think you can. Yeah. So it is legal to use them after not the first character, but not, well, I guess you could say like num2. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. So that's kind of the naming of a variable. So we're basically declaring we want an empty box in the computer's memory. And now we can assign it a value by saying equals and then the number. And I think we're at 23 right now. So then the question is, well, why did we use let and not const? For this example, does anyone know why I probably used let and not const?
Because it could change.
Yeah, there's no way in every bootcamp you lose people, unfortunately, is a reality. And there's no way we're going to graduate 23 if that's our number this early on. Again, unfortunately. So let the value, if we use let, the value can change. And if we use const, it can't. You'll actually get an error, right? So then the question is, well, how do we actually change the value of this variable? Let's say tomorrow someone says they have to drop out, unfortunately. how do I now change this, change my empty box of number students to contain 22 instead? Hara.
So you'd have to reassign the variable. You can do let num students equal
22. We'll
22.
assume.
Yeah, I was gonna, sorry, I was thinking of actually doing the num students -1, but never mind. Yeah, 22 would be
Oh,
fine.
yeah, true. So here VS Code is smart enough to tell us that something's off, right? So we do have an error. So what's our error, David?
This is
Oh, you're muted. Sorry. One more time. Still muted. We'll circle back. Alexander?
You have well, for sure, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but you have two of the same variables on the screen, num students with two different
Yeah, we can
values.
only declare the variable once with the same name. So when we want to change its value, we don't use let or const again. We just use its name, which I know is a little bit tricky. So now I think I changed num students to 22, but I want to see the value in my console. How can I see the value of num students in my console? Alex.
I'm not sure.
Okay. Zach.
Would it be console.log brackets num students?
Parentheses, yeah. And there we go. Now we have the number 22, right? So I want to talk about data types in JavaScript. So basically in the empty box, our variables, we can store different types of information. What are some of these different types of information we can store? We've seen one of them already. We've seen two of them already. What are those, Roman?
Can do strings, booleans.
We've done strings. We are going to do Booleans.
Numbers.
Numbers. What's another one? Well, those are the main ones you'll be familiar with. But then there's two weird ones, which I guess we should cover today, but you don't have to stress too much on them. But it's going to be null and undefined. And then next week we'll learn. These are kind of our primitive data types. We'll learn our complex data types next week, arrays and objects. But these ones we'll focus on today, and we'll really focus on strings, Booleans, and numbers. So the question may be, well, why do we need different types of data? Why do we need different types of data? And this is kind of a hard question, so I'll open it to the class.
Because sometimes, like for a boolean, you would want like either yes or no numbers.
Yeah,
Defined.
that's definitely one reason. Another reason I think is pertinent to what we're going to do is we have things called operators. And operators are keywords that kind of transform values, transform or combine one or more values, sometimes together. And the easiest example of these, we can start off with our mathematical operators. So here, no one's going to suffer if I ask you what's going to be the console.log of this. We know it's 8, right? When I run this code, or 8 right here. But the computer has to know that these two values are numbers to be able to successfully merge them together. So it needs to be able to, we can look at it as humans and understand that's what happens. But the computer has to put them in a category so it knows how to combine them. So that's kind of the reason we have data types. And just as humans, we need them too, because we're used to working with different types of information. But fundamentally, the computer, there's no string or numbers that exist. What is there at the most fundamental level for a computer?
Numbers.
Zeros.
Yeah.
Zeros and ones.
We say zeros and ones, but really it's a transistor that's on or off that we represent, calling it binary with zeros and ones. But the 0 and 1s aren't zeros and ones, they're just transistors that are on or off. So the computer just understands a series of on or off states. And it needs to be told, is this a number or a string? Because if I change these, their data types to now be strings. Can anyone guess what the console.log will be? What output will be? 35. This is kind of tricky. Yeah, it'll be 35.
Oh, well.
So it's doing, the computer, it puts the values into data types, and then it does very different things when you use different operators. That's why data types are so important. I mean, probably one of the many reasons.
That's a string, right? String 35?
Yeah, that's the string 35, correct. Which brings me to another important operator. It's kind of in its own category. So I'm just going to, I don't know, just start talking about it. And this is type of operator. And this is going to be important today. So who can give me an example we haven't seen of a data type of a string? Kevin? Yeah, just any string.
Yeah, what was the question?
Just give me any value that's a string.
I'm not sure.
So to make a string, we use quotes and then we put anything in here and it's a string. So here we can just put Kevin. And that's an example of a string, a value that's a string. And this value, if we wanted to, we can put in a variable. I want to put the value, Kevin, in a variable named name. How would I do that, Rodrigo?
Oh, sorry, I'm not sure.
Okay, Jazz.
Let name equals Kevin.
And in this case, is let or const probably the best?
Const.
Yeah, probably Kevin's not changing his name, at least while this application is existing, right? Or forever, most likely. So consts were probably safe to use. And now to show you guys the power of consts, because I know we didn't do that, maybe for some reason in my app, I want lowercase. What is going to happen when I run this code?
Nothing should happen because it's set, const is set to capital K.
Not nothing, but we'll get an error. So it'll literally tell us in our console, assignment to constant variable. So it's saying you tried to reassign the value after it was declared.
So you'd have to get rid of the one without the constant, right?
Well, we have to use const or let. We have to use one or the other. But basically we can't change it. Which makes sense for our app. Because Kevin's not changing his name. Okay, so now the type of operator is really cool. You put it before any value and it tells you what data type it is. So I put type of, a reserved keyword that we get for free from, I guess, built into JavaScript or the browser. I'm not really sure. Probably JavaScript. We get this operator type of, and it will tell us what the value is, what data type. So here, what do I expect to see in my console.log? Sarthak?
String.
A string, yeah, correct. Oh, so I'm not sure if you said string or not, but string is the answer. So that's a good example of a string, right? Let's do something else. So let's put my age in a variable called age, and my age is 41, so that's fine. So how can we do that, Alex? I want to declare a variable called age and put the value 41.
Do you want to do the const name as 41?
Okay, so first off, const or let, is my age likely to change?
Okay, yes.
So const or let.
Let.
And then the second question is, what's a good name? We're responsible for a good name for my age. What's a good name? Yeah, the word age. And then here we just declare it, the value. But then I want to find out what data type is stored in my variable. So what data type is the value 41? So I'm going to console.log, and what keyword can I use to find out what data type something is? Aaron and Ketzerin, please get your cameras on if you can, and then I'll come back to you. Daniel, what data type is? How do I verify in the console what data type my age is?
Type of, and then age.
Yep. And then
do you
what?
do you need to put the variable name inside of parentheses after type of, or can it work just with the space?
I guess so, because we're getting an error. Oh no, I'm sorry. I was wondering why we're getting an error. Does anyone know what my error is?
It's a spelling.
Oh,
yeah, I just spelled it wrong. Yeah. So we're not going to use a parentheses as if it's a function because it's an operator. So operators, we don't use parentheses, but functions we do. So, and then Daniel, what am I going to see in my console here?
Number.
And then I always do this as a brain teaser for my classes. What will I see now, Daniel? This is kind of fun. It's like Inception.
Data type. Sure.
Okay, let me type of operator. Yeah. So the type of operator always returns a string. And that's why we can see it in our console, because it's a string. So here it'll actually be string, but that's just for fun. It's not super critical. Okay, so we have strings, numbers. Now I want a Boolean. I want to declare a variable that holds a Boolean that says whether or not Rodrigo is present. So Kim, sorry, I spelled Rodrigo super wrong. So Kim, how can I declare a variable to store whether or not, because I'm responsible for knowing if everyone here is present. I want to specifically store a variable that's a Boolean that says whether or not Rodrigo is present. What would that look like in code?
I don't remember.
Okay. What do you think, Renata?
I would use the let variable, and I would use is present as the variable name.
Yeah.
And I would assign it, use the equal to true or false, as whichever you wanted.
Yep, that's perfect. And I love naming my Booleans the same exact way as Renata. I like saying is before them in this camel case. I really like that convention. And Ryan, how can I verify what data type this is in my console.log?
Type off, and then you type the variable name.
And what will I see in my console when I run this?
Boolean.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so that's strings, numbers, Booleans, all the hits. Let's move on to some more complicated operators. We have things called comparison operators. So these are greater than, less than, equal to. So here, what do I want to do? I want to, we can just compare some numbers, right? So is 3 greater than 5? This is an example. Well, let's break this down a bit, right? Lizzie, so what, this value 3, what data type is that?
Number?
Yeah, and then this keyword, what is that?
A mathematical operator? Or just an
Comparison operator, yep.
Comparison operator.
So this together is what this little block of code or line of or fragment of code is what's referred to as an expression, because it resolves to a value. And what value does this resolve to? Well, what value does this operator resolve to, or this expression really? Victor, what do you think? Like 3 greater than 5, what is that going to equal?
String?
No. So the comparison operators don't return a string. They return a Boolean. So there's your hint. So our choices for Booleans are what? We only have 2 values for a Boolean.
Is it false?
Yeah, we have true or false for a Boolean. That's it. So this case, it will be what, Ronald?
That's gonna be, it's gonna resolve to the Boolean false.
Yeah. So it's as if it resolves to this Boolean false, this little expression here. And then we can see it in the console right there. So these are our comparison operators, right? And this one's a little tricky, right? So what is the first data type, Ronald?
The one on the left is going to be a number, and then the right is going to be a string. And so it's,
and then what is this called, this little fragment of code?
Yeah, that's an expression.
Yep. And what will happen to it? What will it resolve to?
That's a strict equality operator, so it's going to resolve to the Boolean false because.
So it's as if that happened behind the scenes. Yep. Okay, so those are the comparison operators. What questions on anything we've covered? Actually, I haven't checked in for questions like I should have.
Sorry, so that last comparison operator, the 3 equal signs, can you just summarize again what exactly it does?
Yeah, are the 2 values equal? And it returns true or false if they are. So Lizzie, give me 2 values that are equal.
4
is equal to what?
4.
Yeah, true. Give me 2 values that aren't equal.
2 and 4.
Yep. So we'll see what in our console.log.
False.
Yeah. So I should mention we also have a not equal. And what do you think this is going to be, Lizzie?
I have no idea.
Is 2 not equal to 4? That's the English translation. I know it gets confusing with the negatives. Yeah, true.
Also
So
Boolean, right?
What was that?
No, it was also a Boolean.
It still returns a Boolean. Yeah. These comparison operators always return Booleans. Yeah. So we could combine operators, I think. So what is this going to be? This ugly expression. Monica.
Of 2 does not equal. A Boolean?
Yeah. Whoops. I guess not. I thought this was resolved first. Let's see if I can trick it, maybe. There we go. I had to trick it. That's some ugly code that doesn't really matter, but yeah.
So, question. So the difference between 2 equal signs versus 3 equal signs. The 3 equal signs is going to take into account the type of, I think, is what was explained, right? So.
Yep.
If I have,
so in
for
this
example, like if I, for example, 2 is equal to the string of 2, it would return true, right?
Yeah. So we're not going to use this in this course, but this is called loose equality. It's before ES6, before the newest version of JavaScript. Very, very few people still use this. I know Kyle Simpson, who was mentioned in the Discord, is one of the only proponents of this I've ever seen. So we're not going to use it. We're going to use the most modern version of JavaScript, but you may see this in the past, and this is called loose equality. But we can simplify things because we're not going to use it in this course. Okay, very important concept that we're finally going to get to. Truthy versus falsy. So all values that aren't Booleans can be converted to a Boolean, and they are either truthy or falsy. So our falsy values are going to be 0, the number 0, an empty string, null, and undefined. Are all our truthy values. Are all our truthy, falsy values. Everything else is truthy. So here I can convert one data type to another by using a built-in function that's given to us called Boolean. you're not going to use this today. This is just for this example. But here, if I put the number 0 and I convert this to a Boolean, what will I see in my console? And I'm letting you know that 0 and empty string, null and undefined are falsy values. Giang?
It's going to be false.
Yeah, so we see false. But then if I can put the string, Sydney, what am I going to see here, Sydney?
True.
Yeah. So almost everything is truthy except for these few things, few values. And this is going to be very important, this idea of truthy or falsy that values inherently have when we start talking about conditional branching. This is really like the computer. Oh, Kim, you have a hot mic. There we go. The computer is going to start making decisions. So we're going to use if and else. So let me give a scenario here. So what are the requirements to graduate from this course, right? You need less than 6 absences. So how would I say this in code? First, I want to declare a variable that holds the number of absences of someone, just someone hypothetical. And then I want to use an if statement to see if they are less than 6. And if they are, console.log that they can graduate. So let's do those one at a time, right? So Hara, start us off. How can I declare a variable that holds the number of someone's absences? Just some hypothetical student.
Let num of absence equal what was it? Sorry.
Well, we can just make sure.
Yeah.
Or, let's just do 4.
4.
I guess.
Yeah.
Awesome. So now the hard part, I want to use an if statement to see if they are less than 6. So less than that maximum amount. Alexander?
Would you need a console log parentheses with one of the comparison operators?
Eventually I'll need a console.log, but before that, I need to use my if statement. So how in code can I ask if the number of absences are less than 6?
I'm not sure.
Okay, Zach?
Sorry, could you repeat that? Are you asking how can you find out if it's less than 6?
I want an if statement to see if the number of absences are less than 6. How can I express that in code, that idea?
I'm not sure if this is exact JavaScript, but the kind of pseudocode would be something along the lines of if num of absences is less than 6, return true kind of thing.
Not return, because we're not using functions yet. But I said I want to just
maybe?
console.log. You can graduate. So if I run this code now, what will we see in the console.log? Roman.
Yes, true. You can graduate. Sorry.
Yes, we'll see you can graduate. And then if I do this, what will we see in our console, Kevin?
False, I guess. I don't know.
This is a little tricky. We won't see false. No.
An error.
Not an error either. So basically, what will this expression resolve to?
Fine.
This resolves to false in this case. Is 6 less than 6? False. And then if the value in here is false, this code inside doesn't run if this is false. So this will just be ignored. So we don't see anything in our console, which is kind of annoying, right? Because if it's, I want to see a message, you've had too many absences if they can't graduate. So in that case, how can I add to this if statement? Rodrigo, what do you think? How can I add to this if statement?
It could be another if.
Maybe, but here is where else comes in.
Okay.
So if this first in the parentheses value is false, that means this code will run. Just like it's meaning in English, right? If this thing is true, do this, else do this other thing. It's the same thing here. So now I can put my console.log, you've had too many absences. This is going to be very important. This branching. The computer is making a decision. What questions are there on that?
I have a question about the console log and the else. Can you just use results like equals to the statement there?
What line?
61 and 59, I guess.
Can I say result equals?
Yeah.
Not that I know of. I don't think console.log method returns anything, but we can see. No, it's undefined. Yeah. Other questions? Okay, so there's another set of operators called logical operators. These are and or. And basically for these, two things need to be true to resolve to true. So here to graduate, not only do you need less than 6 absences, but you need what? A grade of 70 or more. So how can I declare another variable? I want to declare a variable to hold a student's grade. Yeah. How can I do that? Ketzerin.
Let's student grade equal 70.
Yeah, we'll make them 85, but same idea, right? Now here, how can I change the logic of my if else conditional branching to include the fact that they need to get a 70 or greater, actually.
Okay. If I think
One more time.
if or if else, I cannot remember.
No, I can add here. So here I can use this logical operator end.
Oh, okay.
And I can put what? Does that give you a hint?
And 85. Oh no.
Well, no, I
student
can't just
grade.
put the number student. Yeah, I put student grade. What?
Num of absent less than 6 and student equal.
It has to be greater than or equal to 70. So how do I say that in code?
I don't know about that.
Opens the class because it's a little tricky.
Greater than, equal to sign.
Yeah. Yeah. So right there. So here I put my absences to 0 and I can graduate. But what if I have 0 absences and I get a 70? What do we think here? Aaron, what console.log will I see? Oh, Aaron, sorry. Do you hear me? Or you're still muted. I don't know if maybe your mic's off today. Jazz?
It should be, yes, you can graduate.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So we're running a little short on time. So there's one final thing I need to show you to be able to do the assignment today. We have the ability to get information from the user. So let's imagine I want a website to see if someone is 21 to allow them into the club, right? So when I start this website, I want it to ask the user how old you are. How old are you? So I can use this function that we get for free called prompt, and I can ask anything I want. How old are you? And it will go ahead and ask the user for input. And when the user puts something, it will actually return it to the code here. So we can save what they put in a variable. And I have an error because I already used the name age. So I'll just comment this out. So here to show you, I'm going to console.log age. And now when I run this website and I put in 41, I press OK, I actually can see the value of the variable in my console.log. So now I want to use if else to say whether or not they can come into the club. How can I do that using if or else? Hara.
If age is, I guess, less than 21.
Okay.
Sorry, we haven't declared an age yet, right?
Yeah, right. We're getting,
Oh, we did.
we're
Okay.
storing the value of what's returned from the user in our variable age. Yep.
Okay. Console log, you can't come in, or
Yeah, we did the negative, but that's the same logic. So they're 19. Whoops. So they say they're 19 and it says you can't come in. What if they actually are 23 though? What message do we want in the console? Alexander.
Welcome in.
Yeah. How can I get that to happen in this application? I want a message to say welcome in.
Would you have to do an else tag or the else?
Exactly.
Yeah. And then a console log with welcome in.
Yeah. Awesome. So 45, welcome in. So basically the rule is if this is true, this code runs and this code is ignored. If this is false, this code has to run. There's some more complexity here, but that's unfortunately our time for lecture. We ran a little short today. Yeah. But we have to get to the workshop. So any final questions on that? As I'm opening this up. Yeah.
I mean, I guess we don't really need to know about it, but like the bang operator or the negation operator, do we need to know about that right now? Or, it's kind of useful or not really?
I don't think you need it in this assignment. It is very useful. The bang operator reverses a Boolean's value. So if we bang true, it will be what, Ronald?
It'll be false.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's the bang operator. Okay. So the workshop is open. I imagine there's going to be a fair amount of questions today. Let's get you into groups. Let's do groups of 3. Let's create those. Let's add a room for myself.
Max,
Yes.
I just wonder because I looked at the assignment and it just looks like it's just a couple of prompts.
Yes.
Okay, so if we're done with that, like we feel like comfortable with it, can we get the pre-work so then we can just start on that?
Yes.
Okay,
and the
thank
pre-work that you got yesterday is massive. So take for sure, finish that.
Oh,
because
okay.
it's for the whole week.
Okay.
But that'll be great. Yeah.
Okay.
So this is going to be a continuous source of challenge for this bootcamp. More than any other bootcamp, there's people who literally didn't know a line of code and others who went through an entire bootcamp. So yeah, try to be flexible with that, with your partners, with me, even with the assignments, because it is a very wide range. And also, if you remember that you some of the people you're with have been studying for years, so don't feel discouraged if you're one of those people who is really new to code. All right, I'm opening the rooms now.